Hi, I'm Dr. Leif Smith. When I was 5 years old, I got a splinter in my butt cheek. What does that have to do with anything related to mental health? I think it has a lot to do with mental health. Stay tuned and you'll find out. Okay, let's get to it. When I was 5 years old, my family lived in a house that was approximately 100 years old at that time. So now it's 150 years old. And this house wasn't the best house in terms of being kept up. And so that we had a long, rickety wooden porch. And we would play outside. You know, I was one of 12 kids. We were always outside. We were always playing, entertaining ourselves. And one summer, when I was 5, I went to sit down after playing outside out front, and I sat down on the old wooden broken down porch, and I got a splinter about this big, about 1.5 inches in my tuchus, in my butt cheek. Obviously, I yelped. I ran, got up, ran crying, as every little 5-year-old would, to my mom. My mom flipped me over, put me on her lap, and promptly removed only half the splinter. Why is this significant? Well, she couldn't get the other half because it was embedded too deeply. So she cleaned it up, put some alcohol on it, sent me on my teary way. Didn't think anything of it until later on. As I got older, I had problems with this splinter. And so I would sit down, for instance, on a park bench or a picnic table, right, where they have wood and you have slabs of wood and then you have openings between them. That would pinch my butt cheek and it would cause me to yelp in pain because it would then pinch the rest of the splinter in my tuchus. So I had constant reminders when I was little and as I was growing up. And I was a very skinny little boy, so I didn't have much meat on me. Didn't have enough padding down there. And so I would have constant reminders of the pain that I had gone through that summer morning sitting on the porch. So the thing about this injury was, although it didn't really affect me other than yelping in pain from time to time when I sat down wrong on something, it was still there. So the pain is still there. So my body adjusted. Usually what we do is we remove the splinter, we clean it out, right? We use some antibiotic ointment and we go on our way. If we get a cut, we stitch it up, we treat it, and we move on, right? This is how wounds heal. You feel the pain, you work through it, you clean it out a little bit, you work in, dig in, and then you let it heal. You give it time and energy and let it heal. But what would happen if we don't do it that way? What if we did it a different way? What if instead of pulling the splinter out, my mom had just left it in there and, I mean, she kind of did half of it, but what if the treatment was push it in further and leave it, and it's gonna hurt now, but let's leave it and your body will take care of it and you'll heal up and it won't feel so painful. What if we treated open wounds like that? Cuts, right? Instead of stitching them up, what if we just let the body heal on its own? Au naturel, right? Well, what would happen is it would be a slower process. It would take longer, and we would have to make accommodations for that wound that we wouldn't have to make otherwise. So let's say you have a cut that never heals on your body somewhere, and you never get it stitched up, and it doesn't quite close up, and it hurts to the touch. It's painful to the touch. What we would do is we would make adjustments. We would make adjustments when we go to hug people. We wouldn't hug people anymore, maybe. We would tell people about the wound. Maybe we wouldn't wear certain clothes because they would hurt that wound. They would pull on it a little bit. We would avoid situations where people would want to touch us. We would not work out in ways that would exacerbate the wound, that it could potentially hurt it. So we wouldn't do anything physical where someone could possibly hurt that. That makes sense, right? Accommodation. Well, what happens when we get another wound? And what happens if we get another one, and another one, and another one? The buildup of accommodations here causes us to change our life completely in the long haul. And what we're doing is we're seeing a gradual deterioration in the quality of our life. However, if we don't fully treat the pain, the injury, the moment it happens or shortly thereafter, there are going to be lingering effects long term. And that's my point here. So I have this injury. I've made adjustments long term. And now it doesn't really impede any quality of life for me. In fact, I haven't thought about the splinter in a long, long time. However, I have other injuries that I've had to work through, that I've had to go back and clean up, that I didn't take care of when I was younger. An example of that would be my anxious attachment style. When I grew up with my mom and 12 kids, didn't get much attention. My mom had a personality disorder, still does, and that caused a lot of anxious attachment, meaning I never knew quite how to react to my mom. Was I going to get a good reaction, a soothing reaction, a loving reaction, or was I going to get a bad reaction, a punishing reaction? So I grew up with an anxious attachment style. I didn't realize I had this wound, this injury, until I started getting into relationships as I got older. And those relationships were impeded, were affected by my injury that I had not fully taken care of. I didn't fully take care of that wound until I started going in, getting my own therapy, working on my own attachment issues, so that that wound is finally cleaned up, stitched up, and healing at its own positive rate. And so that's just one example, or two examples overall, from my life on how these past events still maintain an effect and maintain presence in my current life. We all have wounds, in other words. Some are mental, some are physical. Some of us have both of those. That's important to understand. Just because you've moved past something that happened to you in the past and that was scary or traumatic or injurious, it doesn't mean you've worked through it. And so in closing, I'm Dr. Leif Smith. The takeaway from today's story obviously is I want you to look at your own life. How is your past still impacting your future? Are there ways that you haven't even been aware of that your past and that what you went through currently affects your quality of life right now as a grown adult? Let me know in the comments, and I'm glad you watched this story. Thank you for putting up with my slightly embarrassing story about my splinter. I'm Dr. Leif Smith. Again, like and subscribe. I would love to have you as a part of my community. I'm approaching 1,000 subscribers now, so it's been wonderful to build my community here on YouTube. And so I can't wait to continue to grow and have you as a part of it.